Hey, Chris Liepe here with isolated tracks for what might be one of my favorite songs of all time from any band or any artist anywhere. The Day I Tried to Live. I couldn't resist. I've actually done an acoustic cover of this song. Many of you have probably seen it. If you haven't, check out the link in the description and you can watch me do all of it with my acoustic guitar and my voice. This is a remarkable feat, this song, with its odd 7/4 meter going to 4/4, with the way the vocals are performed but also produced. Everything shouldn't work. The tunings, right? Everything shouldn't work, especially to be a chart-topping song from its era, but it does work, and it doesn't just work, it's just a masterpiece. I'm so excited to go through these multi-tracks because you'll get to hear, and I'll get to hear, some of the details that really make this mix and this production and the performance work so well that we don't really hear. We sense, but we don't really hear when we're listening to the full produced mix. I get to do videos like this on the channel because this is an education channel. I teach people how to sing. And if you have any desire to improve your voice, and Chris Cornell's a huge inspiration of mine, if you would like me to show you how Cornell gets some of these sounds so you can put some of that in your own voice, click the link below and join my free voice course. No more delay, let's get into these tracks. The tuning of this song was nuts too, as with the entire album. In this particular song, it was all E's and B's, just tuned to fifths in the key of E. Really, really crazy. I like that we have the primary riff isolated out from the slide, which I always... Such a forlorn sound. Maybe it's because of the video or something, but whenever I hear this intro, I just get this, like this alarm clock sort of thing. Not an unpleasant alarm clock, but like it goes off, this song starts, and then I rub my eyes and kind of stretch and, oh, another day. That's what I think about as soon as I hear this intro all the time. It puts me in that sort of mood. Now, one of the things that really struck me when I first listened to these was the quality of the drums. I love the drum production on this album. I like all the production on this album. But listen to the kick when in isolation. It's roomy and it's very saturated. I didn't hear it that way in the final mix at all. It's very, very saturated. And it doesn't sound like an electronic limiting or anything. It sounds like tape sat. It sounds like compression. And there's a lot of room around it too. Really interesting. And then the other thing that is really weird that I didn't necessarily think about is this. Listen to the snare sound. Very bright. Some artificial reverb on there, yeah, right? I mean, it's not just room. When we go to the overheads, listen to how dark they are. More reverb on them too. The brightness. The brightness comes from the the spot mic and the way the snare is EQ'd, not the overheads. The overheads are actually kind of dark. And that's different than a lot of produced records. The overheads are often sort of rolled off and brighter to get that sort of sizzle. But in these particular drums, there's no samples here. They didn't mix any pre-recorded things in. This is all very organic, room sounding stuff. Really, really great sounds and meticulously performed. Kind of a wumpy sound, but it works in the context. I've always wanted to hear the bridge part or the instrumental breakdown with the bass. There's some interesting things going on here. The chord progression, too, how the melody works over the chord progression. We'll go over that later. Yeah. Notice also in the guitar here how much faster this riff is here. Than here. But they've incorporated the same thing. You don't hear stuff like that as much anymore. This song was not recorded to a click. Listen to the transition between the verse and the chorus on these guitars. Huh? You hear that seemingly endless string of E's and B's and all the noise in there. It's a very chorusy sound. It almost sounds like a 12-string. The way that they tuned for this album is just amazing. I love the depth that such a simple riff has in the way that they layered these guitars. And then in this area here, bring in bringing a variation on the theme that was at the very beginning. True composition here. And the stair-stepping nature of this chord progression and the melody line, the consistency and simplicity of the melody line that Cornell delivers is pure genius. Like I said, a lot of this stuff shouldn't work as well as it does, but it doesn't just work. It's like it was meant to be. And one more instrumental part of note before we start going over the vocals. That eruption just gives me shivers every single time. Listen carefully in isolation here. Just the guitar. And then listen into just the backing. There's a little bit of a in there. You kind of wonder, and we'll look at this more when we look at the vocals, but you kind of wonder why this was left in, this little thing. And now we get to enjoy the vocals. When I was covering this song, I tried to do it in a little bit more linear fashion with less layers, because it was an unplugged performance, than the produced piece. But in listening to these in isolation, you hear so many comps, so many background vocal and layer choices that, again, you don't quite understand or internalize the genius of how it was produced until you hear them like this. So incredible. I'll point some of these things out. Because I've spent a lot of time with this song, I'm not going to spend any time really in this one singing stuff. Enjoy these. If you want to hear me sing it, go check out my cover.
I woke the same as any other day, except a voice was in my head.
I have to put this in because I feel like this is just one of those like random noise things that makes so much sense.
As any other day, except a voice was in my head.
Incidental guitar noise. Thio was so good at that kind of thing. Ugh.
It said, seize the day, pull the trigger, drop the blade, and watch the rolling heads.
Notice how light he is at the end of these phrases.
It said, seize the day, pull the trigger.
And then he sighs out. Michael Beinhorn said a lot of times he would zero in on Chris Cornell's exhales and how he got out of notes. That sort of sound that he has at the end of phrases that just made his voice so visceral and connected. But what's interesting here is that you hear right here, he both lightens up, feathers out into vibrato, almost in sort of a head voice, and then still sighs. I lied, I'm going to sing a little bit. Love Cornell. Okay, now listen to his tone here.
The day I tried to live, I stole 1,000 beggars' change and gave it to the rich.
The ability of him to have this beefy, connected to his chest voice, yet so definitely mixed. No other singer does it the way that Cornell did it. It's just absolutely incredible. But I'd like to point something out, particularly about his tone.
The day I tried to live, I stole
This is easily missed. This is not the day I tried to live. It's not that. That is out of the nasal passage. That's definitely mixed voice, and I'm able to hit those notes like that, but that's not what he's doing. He is much more nasal. His resonance is further back. The day I tried to live. It sounds much more like that, and it's much more connected to his chest voice than live. Hear the difference? One of them allows me to pursue compression at the same time. One of them is much more nasal, much more thick. I'll unpack this a bit more as we go.
I stole 1,000 beggars' change and gave it to the rich.
Now, that word is rich, but he's saying wretch. Improv.
The day I tried to win, I dangled from the power lines and left them on a stretch, yeah. The day I tried to win.
Again, when allows him to be beefier, not quite so closed, and hit that note in a beefy, deceptively chest-heavy mix.
Sing it one more time around. Might do it. One more time around. Might make it. One more time around. Might do it. One more time.
really gives a lot away with time.
Sing it one more time around.
One more time. No, one more time around. Much more like that, except for he's able to get it even thicker. Time around. By being intentionally very nasal, we are thicker. His nasality is what makes his mix and his power so compelling. It takes it away from that sort of thin 80s mix that is good, but it makes his tone his own because he's leaning into that. Also, a note on Chris Cornell's melody writing, and you hear this all over the place, particularly in the Super Unknown album, and particularly in this song. There's this element of playfulness amidst the darkness. There's this nursery rhyme sense that makes things so incredibly catchy. And this part of this song is a big part of what helped me realize that about his writing. It's all over the place, but one more time around. And then you have the have this stuff coming in. It's like this call and answer thing, but you get this sense that you've got these, kindergartners in a circle singing along with this refrain. And it's just magical. We have this dark, ethereal, visceral audio painting, and then at the same time he brings in this playfulness that I've never heard it blended quite the same way before or since.
One more time around, make it day. I try the love.
And you can hear in the comping, Michael Beinhorn, the producer of this album, said that there was a lot of comping involved, where Cornell would sing, however many takes, and then they would fade in and out different parts that they wanted to bring in for different dynamics. And this is a really good demonstration of how that worked so well.
One more time around, make it day. I try the love.
Listen to that harmonic distortion on his voice. We've got him interrupting himself multiple times. And you really do hear it in this setting. You hear these faders coming in and out and mutes and stuff like that, because this is all recorded in the analog domain. It's fun to hear those work together like this and get a sense for how comped together this performance was. There's definitely moments where he's singing all the way through, but part of what made this vocal performance so amazing is that the parts of different parts were meticulously compiled into this performance that we hear.
I try the love, yeah. The words you say never seem to live up to the ones inside your head. The lives we make never seem to ever get us anywhere but dead.
The weight that the baritone resonance of his voice has, you'd never know if you just heard that, how explosive his upper register is. And those sighs, there's so many of those that they put you right in the same room as him. It's like he's singing you a lullaby, and just as you begin to accept that it's a lullaby, he rips your face off.
The day I tried to live, I wallowed in the blood and mud with all the other bags.
It's a punch or a comp there, right? Never really hear that.
All the other bags.
Another cut breath there, suggesting another comp.
Singing one more time.
Now listen to this section again.
The day I tried to live.
Live. That vowel is a little bit more I than eh.
The day I tried,
There's pitch problems.
I wallowed in the blood and mud with all.
That's not pitch accurate. And I say problems with very, very cartoon quotes because they're not problems. They are perfect. They are raw. And the performance and the resonance, it totally takes precedence over accurate pitch.
Sing it one more time around. Might do it. One more time around. Might make it. One more time around. Might do it. One more time around. Might make it. I try to love. Yeah. I tried.
Also notice especially in these notes,
I try to love.
there's a very inconsistent distortion going on there, as if distortion is not being pursued, as if a mindset or a certain mood is being pursued, and distortion in his voice is sort of an afterthought. And that's kind of the same with all of his singing, but really evident in that register in this performance.
Sing it one more time around. Might do it. One more time around. Might make it. One more time around. Might do it.
His vowel modification and placement in this song is so awesome because there's so many ifs, win, pigs, but he chooses the right times to mod those vowels and make his placement what it needs to be so that it doesn't sound like where we're just singing everything on an ah, but it also doesn't sound too reined in or accurate or squeezed because of the choices that he makes. And he was very good about this his whole career. The ones that needed to be an eh were, and the ones that were were totally there as a compositional choice, not because he needed to, not because he couldn't hit the note if it was squeezed, because he could. You hear him do it. It's about how he wants the voice to function as an instrument within the role that it's playing in the song. What does the song need? What does the melody need? And he was one of the best vocalists ever at strategically making those choices. And one of the greatest moments in rock and roll history experienced with vocal isolation coming up.
I woke the same as any other day, you know I should have stayed in bed. Hey.
Listening again.
I woke the same as any other day, you know I should have stayed in bed. Hey. The day I tried to win, I wallowed in the blood and mud with all the other pigs.
Oh, the way he slides on mud, the way that it comes out more here than, because I should have stayed in bed, and then the is more of an than it has been previously to create the contrast. Oh, now there's this one little thing that comes in here. Listen, I'm going to put the backing back in.
The day, you know I should have stayed.
Now listen to this little bit here. Sh. Listen without it.
You know I should have stayed in bed.
There's a punch there.
You know I should have.
You hear that sort of crossing, and then you hear that I should right there. And I believe that this was accentuated in, these are just stems, so this is just a hypothesis, to make that punch feel more smooth. Having an extra sh in there helps make that transition feel like more of a one performance. I, for the longest time, for many, many years, thought that this was one performance.
The other day, you know, I should have stayed back.
But it's clearly not. It is, and it makes sense. I mean, it probably required a different microphone placement or different compressor settings or something, because it's just so incredibly present with contrast.
The other day, you know, I should have stayed back.
He blew up a lot of U-87s during this recording process, and you can hear why. I mean, you hear the harmonic distortion, you hear the distortion and compression coming from his voice, but you hear the compressors and the mics just heating up as he nails that. Oh, and the connection to his chest, the beefiness. It's just, oh.
The day I tried to win, I wallowed in the blood and mud with all the other boys.
That slide on mud.
I wallowed in the blood and mud with.
And that vibrato on in. So much going on there. I could just loop that and listen to it there's so many wonderful things about that performance, that particular part. Whew.
And one more time around, one more time around, one more time around, one more time around, singing one.
Now, in the 5.1 remix that Adam Kasper did for this album several years back, there are harmonies here. There's like a gang of Chris Cornells. It's not just this more simple call and answer that you hear here. If you ever get a chance to listen to that, and you can also hear it on the deluxe alternate mix version on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever as well. Really interesting. And I enjoyed hearing those sort of outtake parts that didn't make it to the final mix. I have to say, I prefer the simplicity of this, but that's really fun to hear. If you get a chance, get out to Spotify or something and listen to the alternate mix. This is one of those areas where they combine multiple parts of him improvising and interrupting himself that just, it is so good, but you don't hear the detail of it in the full mix.
Come on, do it one more time around.
The might make it, and then the you hear both of those things happening at the same time, and you hear that agility out of his voice, and it's just a very soulful, almost like church choir sort of sound that you get here because of the looseness and improv of it, again within the confines of this mad scientist arrangement that works in the chart-topping setting. Mind-blowing.
Yeah!
And I always love those chromatic walks.
Yeah! Just like you. Just like you.
And how he cleans up and distorts right there. Some of my favorite Cornell lines.
Just like you.
Just like you would be a very unmindful way of doing it. Just like you. Just like you. There's this sense that he's exploring and playing with his full dynamic potential just over these few notes. He doesn't need to add grit right there to hit those notes. He doesn't need to place things this way to do it. But the dynamic resonant and placement over just these few little notes here at the end is so profound.
Just like you.
Also, something he would do a lot is that percussive intro to phrases. Just like. It's a very pop, very Michael Jackson thing to do, where you're using your your breath as a percussive instrument, albeit a lot more subtle here than in a lot of settings. But you can hear this kind of thing happen a lot on Spoonman, a lot on Super Unknown, the song, a lot on Rusty Cage. There's a sense that he uses stops and breaths. Mailman's another good one. The breath is part of the vocal performance, not something to be shied away from, not something to hide and bury in the mix, but part of the playfulness of the performance.
One more time around.
Yeah.
One more time around. One more time around.
One more time around, indeed. I could loop this song all day. And I have looped this song so many times, studying the nuances of particularly his vocal performance, but the composition, the melody, what a catchy, complicated, simple song. I probably geek out a little too much over Cornell and particularly this song, but thanks for bearing with me. Long video. Thanks for watching till the end. If you'd like more help with your own voice, click that link below. Join my free course. Go listen to more Soundgarden.